Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another TechAdvice.Life video. I'm joined today by Titus C. He is the co-founder of Coral UV and creator of the Coral UV 3-in-1 sanitizer. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, I thought we'd just start at the beginning and ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what the Coral UV 3-in-1 sanitizer is and what those three functions are, and whether you and why you and your co-founder came up with the idea of creating it.
Okay, well, first of all, for us, this was, for all of us, we have multiple founders together, and the whole point was really to solve a problem. One of the problems, which is, in a nice way of saying it, is, I was about to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to have my kid. This was 3 years ago. So as I'm having my kid and I'm researching online and I see there's nothing out there that is just as good as UV, but is also affordable. So it's not that it doesn't exist. There are these kind of machines, but I couldn't find anything out there that's great for the normal family, that has a combination of everything I want. So me, a couple of the founders who also had other problems similar to this, we're like, you know what, just let's do it. We see this market. We see nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it right. And nobody's doing it in a way that's, everyone can purchase it. And this is something that should be accessible to everyone. So that's how we kind of started. It's just solving a problem. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And so what are the three functions that the 3-in-1 unit does?
So one of the functions is drying, of course. So it is a dryer. This function is primarily used because baby bottles or other items, they get wet and you need to dry them.
And people are washing it before they put it into the sanitizer. So, and they're probably going to try and dry it, but this is a true, dries it properly.
Exactly, yes. So that's a big part of it. Sterilizing is the second function, of course, and it's the primary function. So that's your two. And then the third one is we have our storage capacity. So the ability to sort of really sterilize, dry, and then have it at a consistent cycle of sterilization. So it is the storage one. It is a big one for a lot of people because it allows people to keep something in there for a long, long time and just have it. Just have it there for 24 hours and not worry about it.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Those are the 3-in-1 features. Yeah. So now I understand that this started as a Kickstarter project, and obviously you were aware of crowdfunding and went down that route. We've all gone through various Kickstarter and Indiegogo type projects, and normally I'm backing a few projects now, and of course with the virus, there's been delays. But even before the virus, there's been, the project's always delayed. So you started in 2018, and you completed shipping all the units by October 2019. So what were the most challenging aspects of the project, of the whole crowdfunding experience?
I think the most challenging thing, a lot of it is it's really about expectations at the end of the day. I think what happens is that, like anything, when you walk into a Kickstarter project, it's your mentality. How do you see it? How do you feel it? So my background is I come from banking, small business banking, and that's what I did for a living before I started this project. So I approached Kickstarter as in, when we went into it, we knew exactly what factory we were using. We knew exactly what we're building. We knew what kind of prototype we had. So knowing all these things allowed us to plan it out. And the difficult part is really not the execution of it. Sometimes it's really the getting all the third-party people to get along with you, to go along with your timeline. Because as you know, anything you build, there's always going to be surprises. Like, surprise, we're out of supplies. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I would say this. I mean, our Kickstarter, the great part is even now, people can look into our project. They can see all the comments there. And I think our project, we are really proud, is not the fact that we delivered everything on our first instance. Some of it was delayed, but it's the fact that we have consistent communication. And that's the thing, is that I would say I haven't had a single person who came back to us, even after all these years, that was dissatisfied with what they got. You know, they got everything they wanted and everything that they purchased, and they got it on a constant communication and a service level that they expect.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I do notice that one of the biggest complaints about crowdfunding is that the creators don't communicate enough. People are always complaining about that. So that's probably one of the top tips. Do you have any other tips for crowdfunding creators that just spring to mind?
I mean, I think one of the biggest problems people view crowdfunding is that don't view it as a project, as a way to get the money you need to start the project. Because that's a terrible way to start. Because that means that you haven't done any planning.
Mm-hmm.
That means you haven't done any foresight. You have no backup plans. You're depending on this money to somehow see you through the end. I can tell from experience that we had skin in the game. Every one of us, the founders, you know, we funded our own projects, and we saw Kickstarter as really a way to let people see our product, to really help us. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what's popular, what's great about it. You know, I can treat it more as marketing than I would treat it as really getting the money to get your project off. If you treat it like marketing and you treat it like a way to fine-tune whether your idea makes sense or not, then you are much better off than the average person.
So, next question. How effective and efficient is UVC sanitization compared to the hot setting in a washing machine, hand washing, leaving things in the sun, etc.?
Well, I mean, UVC, the great part is there's been so much research on it. Mm-hmm. It's been around for over 100 years, and I would say is exactly what it says in the lab reports. It's 99.9%. So it's just as effective, but the difference is how you sterilize. When you put into that washing machine, you put in that dryer, you have to go through heat and you have to go through liquids. Two things that destroy most items that you put in. So UVC requires neither of which is why you can safely put in an iPad, put in a cell phone, put in your watch. You know, any valuables you have, you can put it in, including jewellery and whatnot, and not be afraid of it destroying it. It'll sterilize it without destroying it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key difference. In terms of its sterilization ability, it's just as good as all the great ones out there.
And of course, I mean, nowadays, with the fact that we can create UVC light, I mean, this is something that wasn't available to people in the past, but obviously now it's something that it's available.
Yeah.
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 Now, I noticed that the box itself, it's sort of large enough to fit a baby's feeding bottle. I mean, you can just watch the videos online, and it's much larger than those boxes that we see online, like this particular box here, which is meant to be for mobile phones and masks and those sorts of things. I mean, you've probably seen these sorts of boxes online all over the place, and there's been these dome protector gadgets that supposedly are for curing the mobile phone screen. So what are the dimensions, and how many things do you suggest people put in at the same time?
Well, I mean, I think I can give you raw numbers, but I think the best way to do it is let's put this using items as a way to put it. So if you're a parent, then that would be 6 baby bottles minimum, 12 at max, if you use slightly smaller bottles. And when I mean bottles, I mean like the Philips brands, those really famous ones.
Sure.
So you can put in 12 bottles. So just think of even cups. Instead of bottles, think cups. 12 cups. You can put in that virtual amount inside, and that would be one layer of filling. So then we have the basket, of course, that comes with the accessory. So the basket covers half the machine, and there's a particular reason why we do that. We're not trying to be cheap. It's a scientific reason why we do that. But the basket will help you also carry other items on top. So, example, you put in your cell phone in there, and then you don't put anything else. They'll give the light a chance to hit both your top and the bottom of your phone. So you wouldn't have to do 2 cycles. Like you wouldn't have to put it in and flip it over and do it again, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's what I do when I use this particular box. I put my phone in one way. I mean, I see there's some lights there and there's some lights there. Well, what is the light configuration on the Coral UV? And I read that it's a stainless steel box, so the light can bounce. But what's the short version of how the lights work to reach as many parts of the item as possible?
So we actually have a coating we put on the stainless steel as well to give it that mirror-like function.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the coating just allows all the lights to bounce around, and we go through a test. We even had, funny enough, you can test this yourself if you want. Is put in the camera, turn on your phone, and turn on the machine when you dump it in, and you can see the light literally reflect all over inside the machine, and I mean it's really great. For that feature, because as you say for that box, it doesn't cover much. It covers, and you have to flip and do all that stuff.
This particular box here, yeah.
Exactly. So for us, the configuration is the light bulbs are at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a top-down approach. So when the light hits, everything in there, in that steel container inside you see, will reflect off. So the only way that that's going to be a problem is if you purposely block the light. Say if you put in like, I don't know, a stuffed animal toy that only covers the light.
Yeah.
But you'll still sterilize the stuffed animal toy. So you're sterilizing something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if people are worried, they can always reposition an item anyway, and they can sterilize it as many times as they want. But I mean, the way it was designed, as long as there's not too much inside the unit, you don't have to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we also we also see advertised that these boxes can sanitize masks, and I certainly have put masks in here and turned them around and sanitized it a few times. Can masks be sanitized? Do you know? I mean, do you recommend that, or do you recommend that people only use them once?
Well, originally we were hesitant to say, we knew that it can sterilize the mask itself, but in terms of the mask's ability and integrity, we don't know. We can't say for certain how. Example, like if you take an N95, we can't tell you how many times it can be reused afterwards because we don't know.
Yeah,
you know, we don't know. That's up to the manufacturer themselves. However, as you know, the pandemic has been pretty severe, and in places in the United States, a lot of the medical staff have been requesting us to send them our units. So we've donated to a lot of hospitals and whatnot. And the reason is because they themselves are actually using UVC technology to reuse PPEs. So this is something that they requested after they've done the research, that they believe that they can at least reuse it a few times, save what they can.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And look, originally there was a bit of a shortage of masks. I mean, certainly in Australia, the sanitizer and the masks are much more plentiful. I don't know about other parts of the world, but the factories seem to have been ramped up and the supplies are more plentiful. But I did read about hospitals using UVC lights to try and sanitize it. So if you can use your unit or these sorts of units or others to get a few uses out of a clean mask that hasn't been wet or otherwise damaged, then hey, that's not a bad thing. Now, this particular box itself only sanitizes for 3 minutes. I've timed it, and it's got little lights that come up there, and it makes this weird ding-dong sound. And normally I do one side, and then I do another side. Your unit sanitizes for 10 minutes. So why did you choose 10 minutes? And presumably that's enough.
Well, I mean, number one, our box is bigger. So the depth is a big part of it. So we want to make sure the light has enough time to actually reach all parts of the machine. So let me give you an example. Like the product that you were holding there, that product, as you can tell, it's a very shallow casing.
Yeah. Very.
So a lot of products that, and I'm assuming it runs LED UV.
Looks like it, yeah.
Exactly. So the thing with LED UVC is that there is a power level to it. There is higher, there's lower, whatever the case may be. But a lot of these, reason that they put LED UVC in smaller packaging is because they don't have the power to reach from top to bottom. So unless you spend more money and buy a better light bulb. So we use a Philips one. So we put the 10 minutes on because we want to make sure it kills, number one, all the things that we do know about. Of course, your E. coli, your all the other stuff, but also possibly things that you don't know about. Because the idea is that you want it to sterilize everything. I mean, UVC itself sterilizes by breaking the DNA chain of any bacteria and viruses that are earthbound. So anything within this planet, you're good. Simply because the sun's UVC ray cannot reach the Earth because of the ozone. So this is make UVC kind of the ultimate weapon, simply because nothing here builds tolerance to it. They don't have time to build tolerance to it. So it's just a matter of how much power we put into it. So we make sure that the 10 minutes is kind of what we call overkill. We want to make sure that not only can it kill it, but you are really sure you can kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, how is the Coral UVC, the Coral UV box powered? Do you plug it into 110 or 240 volts, or is it USB battery pack powered? What's the power source?
So it's just a plug-in, simple plug-in. And in terms of the voltage, that depends on which market we're selling it to. Because we are both ETL and CE approved. So we change the voltage and the plugins according to which market we sell to.
Sure.
So now we just adjust what is a basic plugin.
Yeah.
So you treat it like any other home appliance that you use.
Sure. I mean, maybe a future model can have, like laptops or phones, can have some sort of a transformer that goes from 110 to 240, just for those who travel. I mean, not that we can travel at the moment much, but certainly most people will be using it.
We do have a lot of customers who do travel adapters and transformers to use it.
Yeah. So we know that UVC light isn't good for the skin or eyes. It can cause cataracts in your eyes. And, I've read that your unit automatically shuts off if someone opens the lid whilst the cycle is still going. So that sort of protects kids who might be curious. But how safe is UVC light ultimately for the items that we are sterilizing? Toothbrushes, mobile phones, plastic, the baby bottle nipples, etc. Does the UVC light affect that after a long time, or does it not make any difference?
Well, in terms of actual, you're right. It hurts people. That is for certain. It does not hurt items that much. So what I mean that much, what I mean is this. So in order for it to, say, affect plastic, and the only way it can affect plastic is discolor it a little. And that takes many, many, many hours of exposure. So there is no scenario where our machine will be running for hours nonstop on your plastic. You would have to try really hard and basically sit by it for days to make it run for hours nonstop. Right? It's not that we can't even leave it on for hours. That's not even possible. So that's your scenario where the plastic will get discolored. It won't warp. It won't change. It'll simply get a little cloudier.
Yeah, sure.
But that's a scenario that's very unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
Because you would have to do a lot of rigging to purposely trigger it.
Yeah.
So in terms of items, they're perfectly safe. You can do your cell phone, any makeup brushes, anything that's really sensitive. Items that you're normally afraid that might break easily, that's not a problem. Off the top of my head, I mean, like outside of electronics, I don't know what else is super sensitive, but it's pretty much all material safe. I mean, we've had clients who put in steel bottles inside and they're fine. Rubber, plastic, whatever you name it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No. I know that with some mobile phones, they have a see-through plastic see-through case, and after a year they'll start yellowing. And in fact, some of the manufacturers have tried to work on that to make sure that the see-through plastic doesn't yellow, because consumers get annoyed by that. So I mean, that happens irrespective of whether you've got a UVC sterilization or not. Yeah. And I was just curious, and it's good to get the answer. Now, you created Coral UV a good couple of years before the current coronavirus crisis and pandemic. Did you ever think a pandemic was coming, or was it simply a great way to sanitize products for babies and for general life?
Well, actually, we did not think about a pandemic as the reason. It just sort of, it just sort of happened, things. But I mean, yeah, we were just focusing purely on it's a great technology to sterilize, and it's so easy to use. I mean, I think the great thing is every mother who's used it, this is the best way to describe it. My wife included. She's like this. Okay, people tell me you can sterilize with boiling hot water or anything else. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. You can also use a walkie-talkie to replace the phone. You can use a simple, basic phone, right? Mm-hmm. But once you have touched that smartphone, can you really go back?
Yeah.
And that's the approach with this machine, is that once you touch it, it's like when you first get awakened to the smartphone.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go backwards in technology. So that's the feel of using this machine, is that it makes your life that much easier that you can't remember. And when you go backwards, you get annoyed, and all that stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, Coral UV has only recently become available to buy again. So when did you last run out of stock? When did it go back on sale? And what has the demand been like so far, given the UVC sanitization craze?
Well, it's been pretty crazy. I mean, I have to say, since the beginning of the year, it's been crazy. We're in late February, I think the last day of February, the beginning of March is when we actually went out. So there was a giant, just a wave of purchases. And what we did was we ended up doing pre-orders while we stocked up for the factory. Mm-hmm. And even in the pre-orders, a lot of the stock that arrived in the country didn't even, when it arrived, it had already been sold. Mm. Like before it arrived, the containers already completely sold out. So that even pre-orders, people were grabbing them ahead of time because you'd have to pay ahead and you wouldn't get it for at least 2 months at that time. So even during our out of stock time when we were pre-selling it, people were grabbing it like hotcakes, for an expression of that. Yeah. So it's been pretty crazy. I mean, I'm glad that people have finally seen sort of the great part about this technology.
Even I was looking for this particular unit, and when I heard from your PR people that it was that you were wanting to get in touch with the media, it was like, yeah, I'd love to talk to you to find out more, because this is clearly a product for its time and something that people need. And you were very sort of prescient to come up with this idea, and as I was saying before, this is something that humanity couldn't really do before. Because we didn't have the ability to create UVC light. I mean, people would just put things in the sun or whatever it was, but now we have this way to actually sanitize. So I'm glad you're back in stock, and as I was saying before, you must be having a flood of orders again.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely. We're super busy these days.
Now, I noticed that you only ship at the moment to the US and Canada. And that, I guess, if people in other parts of the world want to buy one, they're going to need to use one of those shipping services where they engage a US company to buy one. They pay that company, and then that company ships it out to other parts of the world. I mean, those sorts of services are quite popular in other parts of the world to allow people to buy things. But when do you think you will be able to ship directly to Australia or other parts of the world? And does Amazon, that you also sell through, do they also only ship to the US and Canada, or can you use Amazon to ship to other parts of the world?
So right now, Amazon, I believe not. But for us, in our own website, we're more than willing to help customers ship to their location. I think the one thing that's the biggest barrier is just simply the cost of shipping. Mm. Because the cost of shipping can be quite something, because this is a bigger machine, it's heavier. So even though it's about 9 pounds, mm-hmm. So usually the shipping can be quite expensive. So, but if anybody would really like one, they simply have to just contact us. We have chat online, we have email, we have anything. Just tell us that you want to buy it. This is your address, and we'll give you a quote on what the shipping would be.
Look, certainly to use one of those third-party shipping companies would cost even more, because they put their own percentage on their little profit margin on buying the unit, and then they whatever they charge for shipping is what you would have to charge for shipping. So certainly, exactly. If as long as people are happy with the cost, then if you can ship, that's a good thing.
we're planning to later in the year. We're planning to start opening some warehouses around the Asia area, which probably would reduce the shipping. I think it's just simply because we don't have a dealer, we don't have a distributor right now in Australia that we're working with, and that's mainly the thing. Is we are in other countries around the world, not just Canada and US. But like I said, those countries they have distributors and they buy it in bulk, which is why shipping is great for everyone there.
Yeah. Well, maybe somebody watching this video in Australia or in this part of the world will decide that they want to contact you, and they can go to the Coral UV website and get in touch. So actually, what does the unit cost for those who are watching and curious?
Yes, so it costs us in terms of US dollars $169,
which is actually a pretty amazing price. I mean, these things were 40 or 50 bucks Australian. So that's not much more expensive for a much more capable unit. Now, you mentioned in your marketing that eventually the UVC light will need replacing. So how many years should the light last? How do you know it needs replacing? And what does the replacement cost?
So typically the light bulbs themselves are supposed to last about 6,000 hours. So that's quite a few hours. However, if you use it on a daily basis, and some people use it daily multiple times, we would recommend that after a year or at least a year and a half, that you look into changing them, even though the light hasn't gone out, because over time the light does dim. That's just the nature of it. We can't change that. In terms of the cost, it's actually not very expensive. It's $24.99 US dollars for two. And you only need two, so that's not that expensive at all. And in terms of indicators, our machine has a very simple way to indicate. So at the top of the machine, there will be a section where when the light turns on, it will turn blue, and you'll be able to see it when you have a machine at the very top. So if it doesn't turn blue when you turn on the light, then that means the light is not on, and it doesn't work anymore. Yeah,
but you're recommending that after a year and a half or so that you proactively change the light anyway to make sure that it's always at maximum strength.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what I would recommend. It's up to the individual whether they want to keep it on longer or not. So yeah, we sell it, and of course we're not exclusive on it because it is a Philips branded UVC light. But you'll find that if you search out there, that we probably sell for the best price you'll find.
Yeah, well, you're probably
cheaper than actually other places.
Yeah, you're buying in bulk, so you can pass the savings on.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're just getting to the last few questions. I mean, if it isn't a secret, what's next for Coral UV? Bigger units, bigger production runs, research on other ways to sanitize, or something else?
Yeah, so we have actually something else in the works. We're pretty excited for. We're going to launch in Kickstarter again. So that's actually a knife block that will sterilize, dry, and holster bang. Because let's be honest, our kitchen knives, we use it to cut raw meat, raw fruit. So that's one of the things we're coming up with next. So a knife block, that's what we're going to go for, as well as. Yeah.
So I was just going to say, is that using UVC?
Yes, using UVC.
And does it sharpen as well as you?
No, but it will clean your sharpener.
Yeah,
it will sterilize your sharpener.
So, and you were mentioning something else that you were working on.
And that's something different. And also, we're going to have an upgraded model of our current one. That will be coming in probably next year down the line. So that one, it's kind of like any smartphone, right? The next generation, the interior space is bigger, and more energy saving, and so it's definitely something that we're going to coming up with.
Sure.
So we've already been working on it for about a year and a half. So yeah, we're excited for these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I always have three questions to finish, and the third last question is always about the future. How do you think the industry will look in 2030? Do you think perhaps more products will be created with self-sanitizing surfaces? We hear about plastics, or there are certain phone cases from a company called Tech21 where they say that it's antibacterial phone cases. We hear about people using copper or something, some sort of metal. I can't remember that it's self-sanitizing. Will there be washing machines or wardrobes created with UVC cleaning cycles built in? Will humanity become super germophobic, or do you think we might slip back into our old, less hygienic ways?
Well, I mean, I think the first one is for the industry itself. I already see that it's catching on. There's a lot even from 3 years ago when we first started to now. There is a ton of more competitors coming in, from the big brands to the small brands to the independent brands. So I'm only going to see it's going to explode more. And I think the best way to compare it to is Asia. Asia right now is a really big tech hub, and around Asia, any country around Asia, just like Australia, you see, is that they're actually a little bit more ahead in North America when it comes to adopting new tech.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already shown that UVC in their market, they've tagged it on to 50, 60, 70 different type of products. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be pretty widely used. Now, germaphobe. Now, that's the thing. I mean, for me, and for our company, we always believe that we're giving you a tool to sterilize, but we're not going to tell you where to sterilize, how to sterilize, or how much to sterilize. Mm. That's up to the individual themselves. I think anything in moderation makes sense. I mean, you don't want to be someone who sterilizes everything under the sun, and also you don't want to be someone who sterilizes nothing.
Yeah.
So moderation is key, right? Too much of anything, even a good thing, is a bad thing.
That's it. You don't want to have an OCD about sterilization and sterilize everything.
Right? I mean, yeah.
Now, my second last question is always just to change gears slightly and just ask you if you can please share the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
I think the best advice that I've ever heard was someone who told me that persistence is key. If you believe in something, you need to be persistent about it and persevere. Everyone can say no to you, can say it's stupid, can say it doesn't make sense. I've had tons of people when we started this tell me, why don't you just, you work at a bank, you're a banker, be a banker, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I would say, you know what, if you believe in something, put your money where your mouth is and just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Don't have regrets.
Well, you've proven that, gone from the world of banking to the world of consumer products, and very successfully. So that's, it's a great lesson for us all. And so what is your final message to the viewers and to the readers of the article this video will be in about hygiene, sanitization, and coral UV?
So I think the thing I want to leave everyone with the idea of this is that Coral UV, yes, we're a sanitization brand and we sell electronics and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, me and the founders, we have a really big on our mission is that we take it personally in terms of service. So if it's something that we should do, we will do. Is that where to be certifications, where to be customer service. I want the customer service that will make our customers passionate, that they can tell other people that, wow, they actually care, right? I mean, when they thought it through. When they made this, it's not just about the dollars and cents. I made this product because I want it to be something that people would love to use, have a passion for using. So I think that's Coral UV, is that our products, we think it through and we want to make it better and have people have passion for it. It's always about fine tuning those details for us.
Well, Titus, I'm really appreciative of your time. Thank you for creating something that the world really needs now more than ever. Good luck with the upcoming larger version and the knife block. Hopefully those projects go on Kickstarter soon, and hopefully we can talk again in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love it. Great conversation.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.